Hey guys, T-Olive here, and today thought we would take a look at the Tier 8 Russian premium battleship, the Lenin. This thing is going to be released tomorrow or today, depending on when I get around to getting this video actually uploaded, but it's coming out here pretty quick. Had a couple of days, play a few games in it, and well, I guess the short version is it's okay. I will probably end up getting one, but that has more to do with the fact that it's Tier 8, and I have an affinity for Tier 8 boats, especially battleships, and I don't want there to be a hole in my collection, but it really has more to do, I think, with that, with my OCD and my desire to just collect things, rather than any inherent or intrinsic awesomeness in the boat itself. It's not terrible by any means, but I think that over the course of the games that I did play, it wasn't quite reaching the damage potential that I know I can do in Tier 8 battleships. I also know that with all of the games that I've played in Tier 8 battleships, that I average right around 50,000 per game in a Tier 8 battleship, and so I would expect this one to do the same or not more, since it's a premium. And my average damage is actually a little bit below that. It's closer to, I think, 46 or 47. So not too far off the mark, but I guess for a premium, I just had a little bit higher expectations. So it is a fun boat. It's a lot like the Nelson, the British Nelson at Tier 7. You can see that even just from the gun layout here. But it's, I think my biggest complaint with it is the accuracy is kind of trollish. I know some of the other press account guys have got videos and clips and screenshots and stuff up already of how bad the accuracy can be in this thing, and there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that that is absolutely possible. I don't remember who it was now, but one of the other guys posted a clip of them shooting at a Tier 7 cruiser at like 5 kilometers with a full broadside and getting like 4 hits. That's pretty bad. I've also seen, though, the accuracy be really, really good. And so it's really inconsistent. It's kind of trollish, which makes it very frustrating to play at times. But for the most part, I don't think that it was anything that I'm gonna sit here and talk smack on the boat about. It just know that going in, it's kind of trollish in the accuracy. The guns hit decently, but you even with the precise aims, you may have trouble sometimes getting your rounds accurately and consistently on target. So know that going in. I kind of was trying to figure out what I wanted to compare it to, just because you guys know I try to compare it to something that's in the game already, so that you kind of have a baseline to compare it to. And I ended up choosing the Alabama. It's the only other Tier 8 battleship, premium battleship, that also runs 3x3 with 406mm guns. So even though the layouts are different, I did feel it was the closest comparison. I know, we could compare it to Richelieu, which has all of its guns forward as well. But even that playstyle is different because it's got only the 2 turrets. They do super fire, so you don't really have to angle at all to get all your guns on target. It's also 4x2 with the 380mm, the 15-inch guns, and so it is a little bit different. And now I could compare it to the North Carolina. It's got the same number of guns, same caliber, and more people have played that one. But I try to compare when possible premium to premium, tech tree to tech tree, just to give you guys the fairest analog in comparison I can. Alabama is close enough to North Carolina that if you don't have an Alabama, but you've played the North Carolina, there's not a lot of differences between the two there. And so it's still kind of a fair comparison. But I did think, even though the gun layout is different, I thought the Alabama was the closest thing to give you guys a fair comparison to, and the Alabama was common enough that I think enough people will be able to make the connection. So thought we'd take a look at, as usual, see the how the stats look, what they compare to the Alabama there, show you how I set up my commander, go over the equipment that I used. I did change my equipment midway through playing. and I think I like that setup a little bit better, so we'll talk some more about that. We'll take a look at the camo, and then as always, I've got some gameplay footage for you guys. So had a couple of decent games, or at least fun games in it. So it's not a great boat. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying everybody should run out and buy it. It's not a great boat. It's not a terrible boat either. It's somewhere in the middle. Kind of like I said at the beginning. It's okay. So anyways, let's get into some numbers. So Lenin class. Normally I don't talk about length, width, stuff like that, but in this case it does make a little bit of a difference later. So length 250 meters. It is considerably longer than the Alabama. That's going to come into play in a minute when we talk about maneuverability. But 46,600 hit points stock, which is not too far off the Alabama, so it's pretty close there. 46,964 stock on the Alabama. Citadel protection is the same on both boats, 12.5%. Fire and flood at 20% for the Lenin, 25 on the Alabama. I think that was one of the stats that got buffed in one of the last updates or the update before. Same damage reduction, 15%, but torpedo damage reduction is a lot higher, 22.5 on Alabama, only 15% on the Lenin. So be prepared to try to dodge some torpedoes, guys, because this thing doesn't like them. Max speed 26.67 knots. Hair faster than the Alabama, so not too slow. 30 seconds to full speed. It does have slower acceleration. And then max traverse speed 4.8 to 5.3 on the Alabama, so it does turn a little bit slower. It is a longer boat though, so that does make sense. Remember I said we were going to relate that back. It is a considerably longer boat, so it does take a little bit more time to turn. Does make it a little bit harder to steer. Like I mentioned earlier, 3 turrets, 3 guns, 406 millimeters, so there's 16-inch, same gun caliber, and same number of guns as the Alabama there. A little bit longer reload, 23.5 versus 22. Second and a half doesn't sound like a lot, but makes a difference. 13.6 kilometer range stock, and 13.7, so a little bit shorter range than the Alabama. A little bit higher HE damage output, a little bit higher fire chance. Basically the same AP damage, 1947 versus 1935. 250% citadel damage is standard for battleship guns. And then it does have a ½ degree per second faster turret traverse on the Lenin. So it's 5.5 versus 5 on the Alabama. And 5 is pretty standard for most of the Tier 8 battleships that I can think of offhand. So it's a little bit faster, but it's in the same ballpark. Secondary guns are these 2 guys right here. You get 2 of them per side. They are 152 millimeter, 6-inch guns. 7-second reload time. Stock 6.2 kilometer range. So you get 6 guns per side for your secondaries, which is not a lot. And being placed all on the side like that, they don't fire directly forward very well. You do got to get angled to use them, but you're pretty much going to be angling anyways to get the all the front guns in play. Compared to the Alabama, which has 5x2 on each side of the boat for 10 guns. They are 127 millimeters, so they're quite a bit smaller too. Shorter range, 5.87 kilometers. Smaller guns again, so they're going to do less damage. Same fire chance, same turret traverse. Lenin also gets some auto secondaries. That's the 3 of them that are back here. You get 3 per side, 2 guns, so an extra 6. Those are 100 millimeter. Pretty standard range for auto secondaries, 3.8 kilometers. I think that's the same. Bismarck is in that same neighborhood. They might be a little bit longer, but same neighborhood. Anti-aircraft, yeah, not very good. You know, it's not really fair comparing it to a U.S. battleship, but 156 for large caliber, 184 damage for the small caliber. Yeah, so not even half of the large compared to the Alabama, and about 2/3, not even 2/3 of what the small caliber is. Surface detection is the same though, 11.2 kilometers on both. So you're just as sneaky. Gun layout, as you can see, the first one, or the B turret, the middle one there does super fire over the front one. So if you stay bow on, you can get 6 shots off. It's pretty standard for the battleship. The third turret does face forward like the Nelson does, unlike the Azuma that faces towards the rear. What's nice about that is that you don't have to swing the gun all the way around the long ways if you're trying to go from one side of the ship to the other if you're turning to engage. Apparently the B turret does turn 360. I never messed with it to see for myself, but it's what I heard from some of the other guys, which is kind of a nice feature if you think you're going to need it. Yeah. Historical camouflage, pretty standard ship hit points, firing range, dispersion, torpedo damage reduction buff. For a tier 8, if you're gonna be running this thing, I think it's worth doing. Captain skills, nothing really crazy here either. Citadel strike, APCS. Because of the secondaries, I decided to take this. You could take Demolition Expert. That's always a good option for these boats as well. It's really kind of your preference. Honor Seeker. I did hear from a few other guys, and my experience is kind of back this up as well. This thing does like to catch on fire, so I do recommend taking Extinguisher just to try to minimize any fire damage that you're going to take. You could take Compartment Maintenance as well for level 10 instead of Honor Seeker for the flooding damage. It does get precise aim, so I took Marksman and Fire Supremacy, and the other ones are pretty standard, so nothing too special there. For equipment, so the first few games I did run with Dispersion just because I had heard previously that the accuracy was so bad, and I ended up switching over the last few games to Auxiliary Armament Modification 1, not necessarily because I wanted the extra the extra AA range, but I figured that extra bit of secondary range wouldn't hurt, especially if I had a destroyer coming, more time to try to deal with them. I still don't think Main Battery Mod 2 is worth it. That 5% reload time buff is not going to add all that much, but 25% survivability reduction is. So I was okay with the turret reverse, so I don't think this is necessary. I really think, honestly, either the dispersion buff, if you want to go that route, or this one for your secondary range. For the second slot, I did take Risk of Fire. You could make the argument for acceleration or steering very easily, but I don't know. I think that I think I would stick with this one, even though it's a deviation from what I normally like to run on my boats, just because even with it, I was getting set on fire a lot. And then same torpedo damage defense reduction, or torpedo defense modification 1. Sorry, not what I normally run in slot 3, but I think it was necessary. So as things slow down and maybe I'm not targeted quite so much when it's not a new boat, I might switch back to steering gear, because that is what I like to run in slot 3 on these boats, but we'll have to see. I did take Elite Gun Operator. You could take Fire and Flooding Resistance, Damage Control Center buff here, get an extra 15%. I don't think it would hurt, but I like to I don't know. EGO is usually my favorite, so that's what I would run. I think that's everything. So cool. Well, let's go ahead and take a look and see. Got a couple of games to show you guys, and we'll see what we got over there. All right. So I decided that rather than a bunch of little clips, I'm going to show you guys this game. This was probably the best one I had, damage-wise, in the Lenin. I ended up being pretty happy with it. It started out kind of rough, as you'll see, but it ended up being a decent game. So I also remembered that the only thing that I didn't go over in the first part of the video was the precise aim skill that this boat gets. And you may notice down there at the bottom that it has precise aim 3. It is the first boat in Blitz to get precise aim 3. Now there is a little bit of a typo in the description for precise aim 3. It says that it increases accuracy by 35% for 20 seconds with a 75-second cooldown time, which is the exact same statistic and boost that you get from precise aim 2. I mentioned that to the contact that I have with Wargaming, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's a typo, and it will be fixed in an upcoming patch." I asked him to confirm for me what the actual update or the actual buff was, so that I could mention it in this video. And at the time that I'm recording this, he had not yet gotten back to me. I have heard it is supposed to be 50%, but I cannot confirm that for you guys. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. So 50%. Accuracy is what I believe it's going to be for 20 seconds with a 75-second cooldown. You do get 2 of them stock, so with captain skills you get to pick up a third. And with that 23.5-second stock reload time, it does get a little bit tricky getting that second salvo off. So I definitely recommend the captain skill that extends the time to 25 seconds. And try to be ready with your follow-up shot. So anyways, just going to let this play out. It's not over yet, but we're definitely heading that way. So I wanted to say thanks, guys, for taking the time to watch the video. As always, I do appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you next time.